So, welcome. My name is Robin Chung. I'm a member of OLLI. I'm on the travel committee. And I want to introduce our Collette representative. Collette is the company that is sponsoring this tour, and Isaac is the business development manager for Tampa and West Florida.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so Isaac, take it away.
Like Robin said, my name's Isaac Way. I'm the business development manager for Collette. I'll quickly run through kind of what Collette does and then dive into the trip for y'all. Um, so our motto is kind of by travelers for travelers. We handcraft all of our tours very intentionally to give you the best experience when you're traveling with us. You'll have a local guide with you the whole time who's going to be very knowledgeable, obviously with this tour about America's history, but about the history of the different cities you're in. And they're a great resource to have, both for that history, but also in your free time for good suggestions of local restaurants or museums or whatever it may be. Um, we have what we call a premium experience. So we include the hometown pickup. We have an industry-leading travel protection plan, which I'll cover a little bit later. But just know that you're going to be in good hands. And then all your in-destination transportation's handled, your hotel to hotel baggage is handled. Like I said, you have those tour managers with you the whole time, so you have someone who really knows the area really well with you. We try and balance out, free time. We have different choices on tour, so you can customize it in a way. So it's going to be a really cool experience, but we'll dive into it for celebrating America's 250th anniversary. So this tour is 9 days, 12 included meals, and we're running it from October 5th through the 13th of this year. So obviously it has to be this year because this is America's 250th birthday. But we'll start the tour by flying into Boston, where you'll be for 2 nights, and then you'll move up to New York, where you'll be for 2 nights, and then a day in Philadelphia, and then you'll finish it off with 3 days in Washington, D.C. This is one of our classic style tours. So average group size is about 37. Just something to keep in mind. And then it's an activity level two. So you can kind of read there what that entails. I think the longest walking period on this tour is about an hour. So as long as you can walk for an hour, it should be no problem. Some travel tips. Definitely pack some layers in October. It's going to be pretty warm during the day, but then at night it could cool off a good bit. So just pack some layers. You'll be in the Eastern time zone, so nothing too different there. But there's a lot of good food up north. So definitely encourage you to try all that. And you'll be walking a bit on this tour, so just bring comfortable shoes. So yeah. We'll dive into day one. You'll arrive in Boston. This is a city rooted with revolutionary history, American history. This is kind of one of the few cities to celebrate America's 250th. There is an optional pre-night stay if you want to fly into Boston early. You can do that whenever you sign up. Just select the optional pre-night tab, and it'll be get signed up for you, so you have an extra day. And vice versa at the end when we leave through Washington, D.C., you can get an extra night there if you want. So, go over a little history. Like I said, Boston is a fitting first stop for a tour celebrating America's 250th birthday. Centuries before it became, super popular cosmopolitan city, it was a battleground, both literally and figuratively, for the fight for independence. It was in Boston that Paul Revere set out on horseback on his famous midnight ride. It was in Boston that the harbor, there's 342 chests of tea dumped into the harbor. There's just a lot of history there and kind of where the Revolutionary War really kicked off. For arrival day, you will have free time during the day. So here are a few suggestions in your free time. You can go to the Museum of Fine Arts, Faneuil Hall Marketplace, or Fenway Park if that's ever been on your bucket list. There's so much to do in Boston, so you really won't have any shortage of ideas of things to do. Um, that night, you will have a welcome dinner with your fellow travelers. and you will be staying at the Royal Sonesta Boston. This will be where you're staying for 2 nights right on the Charles River. It's a really cool area. It's about a mile from downtown. So you're kind of out of the hustle and bustle, but you're still close enough to get downtown quickly if that's where you want to go. On day two, you will head to Lexington and Concord. Um, First of all, you'll head to Lexington, um, and you'll get to learn about the Battle of Lexington. Um, so you'll take a moment to explore all the details of the battle and kind of where the Revolutionary War kicked off and really where America kicked off. It was the battles of Lexington and Concord that, years of strife and tension, finally came to blows and began the 7 Year War for Independence that changed the fate of our nation and the fate of the world. And then from Lexington, you'll head to Concord. This will be your first stop there will be Wright Tavern, where the Minutemen and militia gathered before the battle. And the Minutemen were like an elite, handpicked force of guys just ready to go on a moment's notice, where they got the name. And then from there, your next stop will be to the Old Burial Ground, which is Concord's earliest burial site. And then you'll continue on to the Old North Bridge, which is the exact spot where the shot heard around the world that started the Revolutionary War was fired. Um, Also, there you will visit the Robbins House. You'll get to kind of explore the stories of the home's former inhabitants with notable ties to African American history. It was built in the 1820s um, for the children of Caesar Robbins. He was a slavery survivor and a Revolutionary War veteran. Then, after delving into that American history, you'll head back to Boston where you'll have another dinner and you'll get to explore the city's nightlife on your own. On day three, you'll be heading from Boston to New York. But on the way, you will stop at West Point Academy. You might know West Point for its current day reputation, but it was also incredibly important during the days of the Revolutionary War. And you'll have a guided tour there. So during your guided tour, you'll get to explore both its current and its past roles, learning about, garrisoning of West Point during the war and how the United States Military Academy currently trains its the military leaders of tomorrow. West Point was the most important military post in the Revolutionary War due to its position on the Hudson River. Just a little fun fact for you, and you'll learn a lot more about how it played into that war on the tour. Um, You'll get also on that tour, you'll get a glimpse into the cadet experience and you'll stop at Trophy Point. And this kind of overlooks the Hudson River. It has a lot of good scenic views. And it's one of West Point's most visited place. It's home to the Battle Monument, which is a 46-foot tall granite column. It's displayed captured weapons of war since the American Revolution. So over the years, it's been used for many different purposes, which kind of adapt to the Academy's need. And then from there, you'll be in New York City, the Big Apple. You'll be actually staying right downtown at the Sheraton Times Square in New York City. So you're going to be right in the heart of everything, right in the heart of Times Square in New York. There's no better place to stay. You're in walking distance of everything, like Times Square, Central Park, Radio City Music Hall. Really, whatever you want to see while you're there, you'll be able to do that. But on day four, you will start your morning with like a New Yorker with a local breakfast diner. And then you'll delve into like the historical side of New York on a blended panoramic and walking tour with a local New York City guide. So you'll get to see Central Park and you'll pause beside the 9/11 Memorial. And you'll get to see St. Paul's Chapel where George Washington prayed following his inauguration. And then from there, you'll visit Trinity Church. This is the active church where Alexander Hamilton was laid to rest. So it's one of the first kind of Gothic revival buildings in the city. So be sure to look at the amazing architecture. And it's seems even more amazing when it's surrounded by all these really tall skyscrapers that this old church has survived this long, and it really stands out. It's really cool to see. Um, Then you'll get to go to France's Tavern. Um, 1890. It was built in 1890, but George Washington says no, it wasn't built in 1890. It was updated in 1890. But George Washington would say farewell to his troops at the Francis Tavern. So it's much older than even America itself. Again, it's this kind of architecture and these old historical buildings are so cool to see in New York because it stands out so much with the skyscrapers surrounding it. But that night, you will have the option to do a Broadway show and dinner and see Hamilton. Um, this will be based on availability. So we have guaranteed tickets if we get at least 10 people on our tour to sign up for it. If not, then we can't get guaranteed tickets just because of the popularity of the show. But if you want to do that, definitely get on it quick. All right. Day 5, you'll head from New York City to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Um, you know, New York City is kind of known for the birthplace of America. Philadelphia is, sorry, not New York City. But it was here that two of our country's founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, were signed into existence, basically forming our country. And then you'll take a tour. And as you embark on this tour, you'll enter the very building where the names were inked on those two documents. So as far as American history, this is kind of like the pinnacle of it. Very, very cool. You'll get to see different ones of our symbols of freedom, like the Liberty Bell. Um, and while we celebrate the 4th of July as Independence Day, the Declaration of Independence wasn't actually signed until August. July 4th is just the date when Congress officially adopted the Declaration of Independence. Um, and another little fun fact for you, the Liberty Bell weighs just over 1 ton. So it's 2,000 pounds. It does not look it in pictures, but I guarantee you it's very, very heavy. Um, on day 5, lunch will take you to the Reading Terminal Market. It's a famous indoor farmers market where you have free time to grab whatever kind of lunch you're looking for, and maybe look around at some of the stalls and see if there's anything you want to buy. And then from there, your exploration of history will continue with the Museum of the American Revolution. This will be a really cool chance to walk through the immersive galleries and see all the collections of revolutionary artifacts. Feels weird calling them artifacts since it was only 250 years ago, but that's what they are. And in Philadelphia, you'll be staying in the Canopy by Hilton City Center, Philadelphia. It's a 4-star Canopy resort or hotel, and then you'll have free time there until dinner. And you might make the half-mile stroll to Independence Hall area or see what the surrounding Midtown Village neighborhood has to offer. Definitely talk to your local tour guide, and they can give you good suggestions. And then in New York, you kind of dined in a historic tavern, but in Philly, you'll have another unique dining experience. You'll board the legendary Moshulu, which is a historic tall ship that stands, or I should say, floats, as a world's oldest and largest square rig sailing vessel that is still afloat. So you'll get to have dinner aboard basically a living piece of history. On day 6, you will head from Philadelphia to Valley Forge and then on to Washington, D.C. But you'll stop at Valley Forge National Historical Park. This was a site of the Continental Army encampment during the Revolutionary War. But this encampment wasn't really just a temporary place for rest and sleep. It was also a place of transformation, which I'll get to in a moment. But you'll visit there with a local park guide and explore the land that once hosted over 12,000 revolutionary soldiers fighting for their freedom and for, they didn't know at the time, but for America. And pictured here is Washington at Valley Forge. You can kind of see the little huts in the background that they still have up there. From 1777 to 78, Valley Forge was the Continental Army's winter encampment, just a day's march from then capital city of Philadelphia, which was occupied by the British. While that might seem risky, it was naturally defensible plateau, and winter conditions lowered the likelihood of any major battles. So that's going to be really cool to see in person. But from there, you will head over to Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. You'll get to experience on all the landmarks of the city, get to learn about the history and everything. And while you're there, you'll be staying in the Omni Shoreham, Washington, D.C. It's a great hotel that's been around hosting, inaugural balls, Congress people, presidents, world leaders since the 1930s. So you'll be staying in a place that a lot of historical figures have stayed in. On day 7 in Washington, D.C., you'll head to Arlington, Virginia, and then back to Washington, D.C. So that morning, you'll set out to Arlington. Um, as you can see here, the Arlington National Cemetery and Tomb of the Unknown Soldier are huge pieces of American history. Um, You'll have lunch on your own that day, but then you'll visit the cemetery, and there's over 400,000 service members and notable figures are honored and remembered here. A narrated tour will take you to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the Kennedy grave sites. It provides an environment where all the visitors and everyone on tour can kind of reflect on the values of peace, justice, sacrifice, and everything that it took to make this country. Then day 8, you will be in Washington, D.C., obviously, but you can take in the views of the National Mall, the White House, and other famous monuments and museums. You can pause to reflect at the World War II Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and the Korean War Memorial, which honor the brave American service members who answered their country's call and ultimately paid the ultimate sacrifice. Then you will head to Mount Vernon, which is George Washington's estate. You'll get to learn about how he lived and get to see exactly where he lived, literally the founding father of America. And you'll have, after the initial house tour, you'll have two different options. You can choose either or, but you can learn about the manor through the views of the enslaved people at Mount Vernon, or you can learn about it through the women of Mount Vernon. Both are great options to learn about the history. So just choose whatever is calling to you. And then from there, you'll have a farewell dinner that night, and you have an optional post-night stay if you want. Like I mentioned earlier, just check that box when you're signing up. And then the tour ends. Sadly, you have to go home, but you will have learned so much about American history and get to see and be in all these places that were monumental in the creation of America as a country. It's really, really cool and a really good way to honor America's 250th. Then from going on this tour, you'll be a part of the Collette Passport Club. So if you've traveled with us in the past, you know about this, but the more you travel with us, the more you'll save and you'll get a discount on your next trip with us. If you've traveled with us in the past, then that discount will automatically be applied. So you don't have to worry about anything or do anything with that. It's automatically applied. Um, we include post-tour surveys on all of our tours. We really take our travelers' feedback into consideration and we make improvements on all of our tours based on what our travelers are saying. So you can rest assured that your voice will be heard and people in the past voices have been heard and we've gotten a lot of feedback and made the best tours possible. You can also personalize your adventure, so you can upgrade your airfare if you want. You have that optional Hamilton play. There's pre-nights and post-nights. There's no extensions on this tour, but you have options if you want to customize a little bit. Then we have our no worries travel protection plan. So this is truly a no worries plan. I call it the bad haircut insurance because you can cancel up to 24 hours before departure and get all of your money back minus the cost of the insurance. It's really good peace of mind, especially when flights and everything are involved. You never know what will happen leading up to it. So I definitely recommend getting the travel insurance. So if something does happen, you can cancel and get your full money back. This is a domestic trip, so you will need your driver's license with the real ID star on it. If you don't have that yet, you can use a passport, but you have to have one or the other to be able to fly. The group webpage QR is right here, so you can go on your group webpage to sign up for the trip, and it has the itinerary, some frequently asked questions, what to bring, what to pack, all that kind of fun stuff. And I'll put this back up there after we go over the price. Um, but again, this tour is October 5th through the 13th. The deposit is $698 per person and $429 for the cancel for any reason insurance. Again, you get your money completely back up to 24 hours before departure, and that covers any medical expenses and stuff like that while you're on tour. Um, and then the price for this tour is $43.99 for double occupancy and $57.99 for single. The difference in those prices are just the difference in hotel room prices for a king bed versus two queens. Um, the deposit due date is April 4th, so I would definitely recommend getting on it. If this is something you're interested in, go ahead and sign up, get that deposit in, because once that April 4th date passes, the seats are released to the general public. And I can tell you, this is a tour. Obviously, we're only running this year, and it is almost completely full. So as soon as that deposit due date is up and the seats are released, I can almost guarantee they'll get filled. So don't wait on this. The final payments due July 7th of 2026, almost July 4th. That would have been perfect. It's due July 7th of 2026. So that you can pay however you want, as long as you get your deposit in by the deposit due date and it's paid in full by the final payment, you can pay as little or as much as you want in between that time. And that's all I got for you, but I'll go back to this QR code so you can scan that if you want to go to the web page. But any questions?
I have something I wanted to ask Isaac
Yeah,
Okay.
about the hometown pickup. In the past, we have not been able to take advantage of that because we don't have a common place for everybody to meet and park.
gotcha.
So it's my understanding that that's the way Collette does their hometown pickup, is that
Yes, for
everybody
groups, it'd
would
have to
need to
be one
meet.
location.
Yeah. So just wanted to state that on the recording so anybody listening would know that they have
Perfect.
to make their own arrangements to get to the airport.
Awesome. Thank you for saying that.
hmm And then this tour for us is October 5th through the 13th, 2026.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, well, Isaac, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Y'all have a
Isaac.
good one. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
having me.
you.
And if any questions come up, Robin, just email me or text me or whatever works.
Okay, I will. Yep.
Okay,
All right.
thank
Thanks.
you,
Y'all have a good one.
Mhm.
Okay.
thanks, everyone.
Bye.